documents in and so on. And work with most...
Admiral Ruge, as a... Admiral Ruge, as an expert on naval affairs, what are your opinions on Soviet-NATO confrontation in the Mediterranean?
Well, it's a very interesting development. Russian plans for the Mediterranean are much older than generally expected. They started in 1770. 10 years later, they wanted to trade the island of Minorca for troops they wanted to loan to the British for fighting the colonies in North America. But the British turned it down because they didn't want to weaken their situation in the Mediterranean, of course. But now, at present, the Russian development is, in my opinion, far more political than military. Of course, after that defeat of the Arabs in '67, they had to do something, and the quickest way they could do it was by sending ships down there, and now it's a means of politics, of political pressure. In a conflict, the surface fleet of the Russians wouldn't have a long life, would be blasted off in a few days at highest.
If there were an American-Soviet confrontation in the Middle East, how do you think that would come out?
Well, there's a Soviet-American confrontation all over the world, in my opinion. And so far, I haven't seen any weakening in the Soviet attitude. The Soviet position may be something different.
Do you think naval power could play a larger role than it has in the current affair between the Israelis and the Egyptians?
It could. You could do quite a lot, and that's probably why the Israelis got these 5 fast, I'd say, gunboats now, because it's very important for them to keep the others off their own coasts. But in the overall picture, naval power will always play a very important role, because the sea is the most economic way of transport in all the world we have.
And going to the other side of the world, in Vietnam, do you think that the naval forces could have played a larger role there than they have?
I think that in the beginning, a blockade in North Vietnam might have had considerable influence, but I'm not a naval advisor in any way, and things have developed now in a way where there's no more question of it, in my opinion. But it's an entirely private opinion.
That is, where do you think a blockade would have been most effective?
Well, against the main port, of course, against Haiphong. Mm. And blockade is an old means of politics, has been recognized for hundreds of years.
Thank you, Admiral. Admiral Ruge, as an expert on naval strategy, what are your opinions on the Soviet-NATO confrontation in the Mediterranean? In the event of a possibility of an American-Soviet confrontation or in the Middle East, how do you think the navies would fare? In the affair between the Israelis and the Egyptians, do you think naval forces might play a larger role? And going to the other side of the world for a moment, in Vietnam, do you think that possibly naval forces there might have played a larger part in the war?